Hello, everyone who's joining us. We're just going to give it a minute as people trickle in. Thank you all for being here tonight on this lovely Saturday. Okay, we're going to give it about 2 more minutes. I see some more attendees are coming in, so we're just going to wait for them. This is the time to grab your drinks, grab your snacks, get ready to enjoy. Yes, I saw a question in the chat. Are you all muted? Yes, so it is webinar style, so we cannot see you and we cannot hear you. You will only be able to hear us and see us. And now it's 7:32, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining us today on Zoom, and a few of you might be joining us on YouTube today, so thank you. I'm Jade Mujias, and I'm the marketing coordinator here at Antaeus Theater Company. And tonight we are super excited to be presenting this community salon event along with our partners at the Brand Library and Art Center. For those of you who don't know, Antaeus is a professional theater company based in Glendale. We were founded in 1991, and we've been known primarily as a classical company, but as you'll hear more about tonight, in recent years, we've been putting a lot of energy behind producing new work in addition to the classics, what we consider the new classics. So a little bit background about what you're about to hear. This is the Zip Code Plays series, and this is a series of audio plays, and each one is set in a different zip code. So we released our first season of the Zip Code Plays in November of 2020. Then season 2 came out in May 2021, which, by the way, we got nominated for an AMBI Award for Best Fiction Podcast, which is very exciting, which will be announced the winners later this month. And then season 3 came out in December of 2021. And all episodes are available completely for free, and you can stream them on our website, or you can stream them wherever you get your podcasts. At the very end of this, we'll have our executive assistant show you guys some links at the end. So if you want to listen to the other audio plays, you can go ahead and do that. And the play that we'll be listening to tonight is from season 3. The play was sponsored by Deborah Thompson and Lawrence Riff, and season 3 was sponsored by the Michael J. Connell Foundation. And we started this project in order to create something that our audiences could enjoy from the safety of their homes while our doors had been closed during the pandemic, which we're open now, very exciting. And we decided to focus on Los Angeles neighborhoods because we wanted to highlight the diversity of our city and focus on the community connection. And the Zip Code plays were written by members of our Antaeus Playwrights Lab, and they were directed and performed by incredibly talented artists that are a part of our Antaeus community. And in just a moment, we will be listening to 91201 Glendale, the Six Pianos of Miradero. The play is just under 35 minutes long, and afterward, we will be having a discussion with playwright Alex Goldberg, director Lisa Sanaye Dring, Antaeus artistic director Bill Brocktrup, and senior library arts and culture supervisor Caley Cannon. And for the guests joining us on Zoom, if you have any questions, you can add them to the Q&A window at the bottom and at any time. And at the end, when we have the discussion, we'll be reading through those. And if you're watching live on YouTube, you can feel free to add any questions to the chat and we can get to those as well. And if you want to check out the rest of our Zip Code plays, we'll be also sharing those links, as I've mentioned before, which we will put in the chats as well. And right before we get started, we want to take a moment to acknowledge that the play we will be listening to tonight, as well as the area in which we live and work, are on the land that is the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. So All of that said, I just want to say thank you all so much for the donors and the sponsors that have made this project possible. And thank you all for joining us tonight. Seriously, it means so much to us. So thank you. And now it's time to sit back, relax, and please enjoy Glendale, the Six Pianos of Miradero, which will be queued up on our screen in one moment. Thank you so much.
In 2017, after a decade of producing in a small storefront theater in North Hollywood, Antaeus made the jump to our new home at the Kiki and David Gindler Performing Arts Center on Broadway, just off of Brand Avenue in beautiful downtown Glendale. Which is why we're so excited to begin this season right in our hometown. Playwright Alex Goldberg, whose work you heard in Season 1's disturbing Annexing the Palisades, is back, combining his love of history and theater with a look at the complicated early days of the Jewel City. Set in 1925 and based on actual events, welcome to 91201, Glendale, the Six Pianos of Miradero.
Thank you, Pomeroy. Here is fine. Wait here. This shouldn't take long. Oh, miss! Could you hold the door, please?
Of course.
Thank you kindly. Oh, it's warm already.
And it's only early May.
Oh, are you going to the attorney's office?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course. Are you the secretary?
I am a secretary, yes, but I...
Wonderful. Good for you. A woman should be able to work if she chooses. Oh, I'll have an iced tea.
Oh, all right. Let me...
Really, dear, it's in the icebox and glasses in the bureau. No need to be nervous. Yes, I know you know who I am and that my husband passed.
Mr. Henderson isn't here yet.
The man is criminally late. Over 1,500 people paid their respects at my husband's funeral, but only one person walked in 20 minutes late.
Here you are.
Thank you, dear. Everyone has been so fabulous. My Leslie suffered so, and it's been wonderful to hear everyone say such kind words. He was truly loved by so many people, and by me.
He built this city. Everything here is because of him. This grand street, Brand Boulevard, is named after him.
He named it after himself. His ego was as grand as his ambition. But Leslie put this great city on a map. And sure, he made enemies, rival businessmen, farmers, Los Angeles city officials. But none of that matters. As Leslie liked to say, a great society is built brick by brick on the backs of the unknown masses.
Glendale is a wonderful city.
It's his legacy, Miss...
Carpenter. Birdie Carpenter.
Pleasure, Miss... Or is it Mrs. Carpenter?
Oh. Well, my husband passed as well.
Oh, my dear, I'm so sorry for your loss. Looks like we're bonded in grief. I hope that...
Oh.
Good morning, Mrs. Brand. Oh, Miss Carpenter. I was not expecting you so promptly.
She makes an excellent iced tea. She's a keeper.
My apologies. The traffic. An accident on Belmont and Broadway made for quite a backup.
Mr. Henderson, you have the worst luck with traffic. I never seem to encounter any traffic when I drive in Los Angeles County. Wide open roads and spaces.
Perhaps I spend more time on the road than you do, Mrs. Brand.
Perhaps if you're always late, you should consider leaving earlier. Perhaps.
And Perhaps saying I was in traffic was more proper than sharing that I was late because of difficulty with my digestion, causing me to remain in close proximity to my water closet.
Can we get to the reading of my husband's will? My driver is waiting.
But of course, I see you have... Well, that you have met Miss Carpenter.
Yes, your secretary, and it's Mrs. Carpenter. She just mentioned her husband also passed.
Miss Carpenter, what did you tell her?
I haven't had the opportunity to...
Miss Carpenter, I insisted that prior to...
But we just arrived and I had to pour the iced
What's
tea.
going on? Are you not the secretary?
She is not my secretary. I made it very clear that I could not be a party to this conversation, Miss Carpenter. I shall attempt to finish my personal business in the water closet down the hall. Miss Carpenter, make this right before I return and tell her what you've done.
I don't follow. You're not Mr. Henderson's secretary.
No, ma'am. I work for Title Guarantee.
Oh, my husband's company.
I don't work for him. I work for William Pruitt.
Of course, Bill Pruitt. He's been to parties at Miradero. That's our house. I'm sure you've seen it up the hill. The Grand Alabaster Palace.
I am familiar.
Does Bill have an interest in Leslie's will? I don't believe they were that close, and I doubt there'll be anything pertaining to him here. Is there unfinished business with my husband? Or just another vulture swooping in to claim what's mine?
No. No, ma'am. As far as I know, Mr. Pruitt does not have any interest in the will. You need to know something. About Leslie. I need to tell you that... Oh, this is very difficult.
Are you implying something illicit? Are you coming here at the reading of my late husband's will while I am mourning my beloved Leslie to tell me some salacious gossip?
Please, don't be angry with me. I need to tell you that... Oh, this is hard.
I see. I'm not naive to Leslie's extracurricular activities, and he was aware of mine. We had an understanding. Are you saying that you were my husband's mistress?
No, ma'am. I am not Leslie's mistress.
Well, that's just swell. I mean, you're young and attractive, so naturally I could see how you'd capture a wandering eye, but Leslie was not one to...
He's my husband. We are married.
He's... Did you say married?
Yes, ma'am.
I beg your pardon.
Leslie and I are legally married.
All right. So you and my husband married. And when did you marry my husband?
January of 1922. The 12th.
I see. So 3 years ago. All right. And where did these blessed nuptials take place?
Our Lady of the Sacred Heart. In Mexico. In Tijuana.
Oh.
We met a few years earlier, on a train from Oregon to Los Angeles. I had just been crowned Miss Nevada, and I was competing in other beauty pageants. We fell in love, and started relations.
Married. In Mexico. Leslie and I were married in Mexico, in Monterey.
That was immensely satisfying. Everything sorted out with you, ladies? Good, good. Is anyone else hungry? I'm famished. Would either of you care for some jerky? Salted beef, very delicious. No. Well, I have plenty. Just say the word. All right. Shall we commence with our official business?
You knew about this? Her claim of marriage to Leslie.
My relationship with all clients remains confidential. It is the nature of being an attorney.
Oh, stop, John. You've been to parties at my house. Ellen and I are close friends.
And regardless of my business relationship with Leslie, it is not my place to share such information. Not with you, not my wife, not anyone.
It can't be true.
It is very much true. Leslie married Miss Birdie Carpenter in Mexico 3 years ago. I have a copy of the certificate on file if you would like
So
to...
you're saying that my husband is a bigamist?
No, ma'am. He was a bigamist. He ceased to be so upon his demise.
You are uninvited from any future parties at Miradero.
Let us focus on Leslie's wonderful legacy. The growing city of Glendale. He provided...
And you! You attended one of our parties. I remember a horrific red gingham dress.
Leslie purchased it for me.
Of course he did, because women's fashion was the only thing he knew nothing about. Besides fidelity, of course. So you came to my house.
At the invitation of my husband.
My house. To one of my parties wearing a hideous dress picked out by my husband. How dare you insult me, and how dare you insult the memory of my husband?
Our husband.
My husband. How dare you insult me, my late husband, and the good people of Glendale? Mr. Henderson, please remove her so we can read the will and move on with our lives.
Miss Carpenter has a claim to attend the proceedings as, like you, she was legally married to Mr. Brand and has a right to hear the contents of the will.
I cannot imagine he left her anything. As his attorney, I'm sure you can confirm that this delusional woman will not receive a cent of my money.
Mr. Brand was rigorously revising his will in his final weeks. Despite his body failings, his mind was sharp until the very end. This final version was signed 2 days prior to his passing, and I have not had the opportunity to peruse it. So we can now do it together.
If there's anything going to you, I will contest and sue you for every last nickel.
I don't want your money.
Then why are you here?
Because of our sons. Lee and Jack. And since you failed to have any children, Lee and Jack are the true heirs to Mr. Brand's legacy.
Well, this is clearly business best discussed by the women folk, so I will excuse myself and...
Sit down.
I shall just run down to the 5 and dime, as I am out of rolling papers.
Sit! You have children.
2 boys. Lee is 3 and Jack is 18 months.
Do they have Leslie's eyes?
And his ears.
I would be remiss if I did not mention that only Lee is a true son of Mr. Brand.
That is not true.
Mr. Brand has declared several times that your other son is...
Jack.
That your other son is not his, that you had relations with other men, and that
There
those
were
acts...
no other men.
And that those acts of infidelity led to the birth of your bastard second son.
There were no other men. I was caring for Lee, who was only 9 months old when Leslie and I resumed our marriage relations. Lee had colic. I never left the house. Where would I find another man?
Nevertheless, Mr. Brand acknowledges only Lee, and therefore he is the only true heir.
I am the only true heir.
Well, then, we should probably read the will. I'm sure everything will sort itself out. As you can see, this document was sealed and notarized. No one has seen the contents since Mr. Brand authorized this version in the days before his passing. All right. Let's see. All right. I, Leslie Coombs Brand of the city of Glendale, and are you sure I couldn't interest you ladies in some jerky?
Read the damn will.
Fine. I, Leslie Coombs Brand of the city of Glendale in the county of Los Angeles and the state of California, being of sound mind, memory, and understanding, on this day of April 8th, 1925, make this my final will and testament. First, I give, devise, and bequeath to Arthur F. Morian, beloved friend and vice president of Title Guarantee and Trust Company, the property at Mono Lake.
The summer home?
The property at Mono Lake, including all furniture and fixtures on the premises, and 2 automobiles, the Tioga Wolf and the Duesenberg with accompanying equipment.
Fine. Fine. I never much cared for the Mono Lake house, and we have plenty of cars.
Second, I give, devise, and bequeath to John Lloyd Henderson, Esquire, my 1921 Dodge Roadster and my T. Eaton and Company leather valise. Oh, my stars, how thoughtful. He always told me I needed to travel, and now he has provided a car and bag for the occasion.
May we?
Of course. Third, I give, devise, and bequeath one of my pianos to the Pasadena School of the Blind. The specific piano is left at the discretion of Mary Louise Brand. Fourth, I give, devise, and bequeath one of my pianos to the Glendale Hotel. The specific piano is left at the discretion of Mary Louise Brand. Fifth, I give, devise, and bequeath one of my pianos...
This is ludicrous. I play the piano. He can't just give away all the pianos.
It appears he only bequeaths 4 of your pianos.
4? That only leaves 2.
Well, now, I suppose that leaves 1 for each hand, Mrs. Brand. I don't know much about playing the piano, but that strikes me as more than generous.
That is beyond the point. Those are pianos that I play, not him. He has no right to just...
He has every right to any property in his name.
Excuse me, but may we skip ahead?
One does not skip ahead at a will reading.
This is very stressful, as you can imagine.
Agreed. I would prefer not to sit here any longer next to this adulteress.
We are married.
Oh.
Were married. He's deceased.
I love him, and his sons love him.
1 son, according to law.
And I have spent more than enough time in the same room with Mrs. Brand. So, may we expedite the process?
Agreed. Can we skip to the part that concerns her? I'd like to know what I'm going to contest sooner rather than later.
This is highly unorthodox. But I understand that these occasions are difficult for emotional women, so I shall make an adjustment. All right. Let's see here. Let me... Oh. Miss Carpenter, I am afraid that this will makes no accommodations for you.
What? Nothing?
See? Very good. Now you can leave and we can...
What about my sons? Anything for Lee and Jack. His only children. Or even just Lee. Please, Jack again. Please tell me he didn't curse his only children to a life of poverty.
I'm so sorry, Miss Carpenter, but there is absolutely nothing in this will that... Miss Carpenter. Miss Carpenter.
This is neither the time nor the place.
Here, my dear, take my handkerchief.
Thank you.
All right. We've had our cry. Let's continue.
Please, Mrs. Brand, have you no sympathy?
Have you no sympathy? The woman appears at the most inopportune moment, attempts to upend my life. And now that she has failed, I should feel for her?
I gave all my heart to Leslie. I gave him my body. I gave him sons. 2 sons. I don't want any money. I just want my boys to be secure. I want them to know to know that they are truly appreciated. To know how special they are.
I'm sure you're a very good mother, and they know they are loved.
That's right. I am a mother.
Oh.
Carried each for 9 months through the sweat and the pain and birthed them. They came out of my body. They took part of me with them. Part of him as well. They are blood. They are Leslie's blood. They are what remains.
I am what remains. Only me.
This is a hard time for all of us. Our city lost her great founder, the man who brought commerce, water, electricity, telephones, and even the trains. We are all at a loss here.
Should we continue? So I can return home and put this awful appointment behind me.
I should leave.
Indeed. You've caused enough trouble. Leave me and my husband alone.
Miss Carpenter!
Birdie!
Miss Carpenter, get off my floor.
John, please, help me get her to the chair.
Sorry. Oh, I don't know what happened.
Shh, child.
Oh, thank you. I'm so embarrassed. I have never lost my balance.
You fainted and fell upon my floor.
I never, not even when I was expecting.
John, get her some iced tea.
I'm not sure where.
Oh, for heaven's sake, I'll get it.
These floors are not designed to support swooning women. That is not their function.
Here's some iced tea, Birdie, and a wet compress. Hold it to your head.
I'm so sorry.
Just drink this and breathe.
I did not mean to.
It happens. It's unusually hot.
And it's only early May.
Miss Carpenter, now that you are safely ensconced in my leather chair, I feel it's important to mention that your accident was due to your emotional state and not stemming from any flaw in the flooring or any other type of negligent
Oh,
mishap.
for heaven's sake, John. Let's continue, shall we?
All right. All right. Where were we? Sixth, I give, devise, and bequeath one piano to the Glendale Council of
I'm
the Arts.
sure all of Leslie's knickknacks will find a proper home. Can we move on to what concerns me, and then I will leave you to your business?
But protocol dictates that
Please, John.
Here we go. In regards to the state of Miradero, I give, devise, and bequeath 800 acres of land to the city of Glendale for whatever use she sees fit.
Miradero?
What a generous gift. A truly selfless act which will no doubt benefit our great city and help continue its growth as a true jewel of Southern California.
It's my home.
Now, Mrs. Brand, don't get hysterical. I'm not finished. The 800 acres are designated as outside the main gates of the residence. As for the house of Miradero and the surrounding 50 acres, I leave it for Mrs. Mary Louise Brand's personal use and enjoyment.
50 acres. Does that include the Japanese garden? The pool? The tennis courts?
I believe so.
But the property remains mine. He gives away 800 acres just like that to a city?
She is a great city that he built, a city with a population of 300 people when he arrived. Now we are roughly 40,000.
But he leaves me as a condolence. 50 acres in the house. Is that correct?
Shall I continue? As for the house of Miradero and the surrounding 50 acres, I leave it for Mrs. Mary Louise Brand's personal use and enjoyment until her passing. After her passing, it shall be bequeathed to the city of Glendale.
What?
Oh, let me finish. To the city of Glendale, to be turned into a park and a grand library for the use of every good citizen of Glendale, so knowledge and growth may continue in perpetuity. Miss Carpenter, are you all right?
Much better now. Thank you.
So I get nothing.
I don't think you heard me correctly. 50 acres in the house. The beautiful house you've lived in since your husband had it built, and a generous stipend.
You will not starve.
I live there. And then when I pass, it passes as well.
I don't understand. When you die, you're dead. What does it matter?
It matters. It matters because it's not mine. I am a guest. I am a house cat.
Okay, don't look at it like that. It is more like your husband is caring for you, making sure your financial needs are met, and that you are not troubled with...
That I am not trusted. I am not to be trusted with the financial dealings or any inheritance. I exist in purgatory. That is all.
Mrs. Brand, the financial world is very complicated.
Is it? How so?
There are thousands of examples of the complexities of the financial empire your husband labored to establish, nuances and details that simply cannot be handed down on a whim.
Give me one example.
All right. The addition to your house.
The tower.
Yes. Why did he add the tower?
We wanted to take advantage of our view. Our old bedroom was drenched in sunlight at dawn. With a new angle, the sunlight would not be invasive. And now we watch the glorious sunset over the Santa Monica Mountains. It reminds me of Tuscany.
And how does one access the new bedroom?
Through the kitchen. I thought the view on the western end might be better, but Leslie said the land on the east side by the kitchen was more suitable.
The land on the east side was more suitable, but not for the reason you think.
It is a tax break.
A what?
I see this frequently at Title Guarantee. In California, property tax is based on where you sleep, where you actually lay your head. Your house is in Glendale proper, but on the border. The addition is in Los Angeles County proper, with much lower property tax.
So you mean...
Your husband saved your estate hundreds of dollars a year by adding that bedroom.
The father of Glendale avoided paying property tax to Glendale.
And there are more examples like that. Many more reasons why you need not be involved.
Are you implying that my husband did illegal activity?
Your husband followed the letter of the law. I made sure of that. But it is complicated. Now, why don't you enjoy your remaining years on the property you know and love, knowing that it is safe? And upon your passing, the city of Glendale will benefit even further.
Our marriage lasted for over 30 years. A testament to a lifetime of love. We were a great team, and I do not deserve to be cast aside like a piano.
A great society is built brick by brick on the backs of the unknown masses.
You have no sympathy.
Now you know what it feels like. Our husband had one true devotion, the city of Glendale. And nothing else matters.
I have heard enough from you today.
I have heard enough from you for a lifetime. I will show myself out.
Miss Carpenter.
Yes.
If you ever find yourself in need of an attorney,
Then I will make sure I secure a competent one.
I will contest the will. Written days before he passed, he was no longer himself.
I have the previous dozen iterations of his will, going back 5 years. While the incidental knickknacks, as you phrased it, vary from draft to draft, he was consistent with the wording of this clause regarding your property from the very beginning. Immaculately consistent.
I see. Well, if there's nothing else...
Very well. Ellen and I look forward to your next Sunday fun day at Miradero. We always enjoy our afternoons with you. And
There will be no more parties at Miradero.
well, that is a shame.
A shame indeed. Oh, waiting to pour more salt in my wounds.
I missed the streetcar. And this is the only shade while I wait for the next one.
You have ruined our name. You have tarnished a legacy.
Leslie married both of us.
That does not make us equals.
That is without question. Why don't you get back in your fancy motor car and go back to your mansion and 50 acres?
Pomeroy? Thank you, Pomeroy. Oh. Miss Carpenter,
Yes.
it's certainly a hot day, especially for early May. I'd hate to see you faint again.
I am fine.
Get in with me. Pomeroy and I shall see you to your home.
Really? Thank you, Mrs. Brand.
It's only fitting we drive on Brand Boulevard together, Mrs. Brand.
You've been listening to 91201, Glendale, The Six Pianos of Miradero. Written by Alex Goldberg, directed by Sanaye Dring, starring Alexandra Hellquist as Birdie Carpenter, Peter James Smith as John Lloyd Henderson Esquire, and Kitty Swink as Mary Louise Brand. Ben Altman is production stage manager. Jeff Gardner is our extraordinary audio producer, sound designer, and Foley artist. Andrea Almond is co-designer. Ellen Mandel created our original music, and our sound editor is Neil Woganson. Antaeus Theater Company is an actor-driven ensemble that explores timely and timeless work grounded in our passion for the classics. Our artistic director is Bill Brocktrup, Anna Rose O'Halloran is our producing executive director, and Nicole Samsel is our director of operations. For more information about the Zip Code Plays or to support Antaeus, please visit our website at zipcodeplays.info. While there, check out the original illustrated maps of each of our zip codes created by artist Cynthia Jaquette. You can also visit highlights of each neighborhood in person or virtually by taking the Zip Code Plays tour. If you enjoyed this production, please leave us a rating or review. It really helps new listeners find us. If you're looking for more great theater in Glendale, check out our friends at Imagine Theater, LA's theater for young audiences, where they champion kids, inspiring them with the courage to find their own voices. Glendale is also home to the Armenian Dramatic Arts Alliance, supporting the legacy of Armenian arts and culture and championing the voices of human rights with their Global Playwriting Award.
All right, there is a lot of drama in there. So we're going to start off with the discussion. I'm just going to reintroduce everyone again. We have the playwright Alex Goldberg. We have the director Sanaye Dring. We have Antaeus artistic director Bill Brocktrup, who will also be moderating the conversation tonight. And then we have senior library arts and culture supervisor Caley Cannon. Let the discussion begin.
Oh, thank you so much, Jade. Thank you. It was great to hear that again. I just enjoy it so much. I'm so proud of these pieces, and I just love listening to them. So congratulations, Alex and Lisa, on your awesome work here. Alex, can you tell us, like, sort of how did you come to this idea? And as Jade mentioned, we've done Antaeus has done now 18 zip code plays over the course of 3 seasons. And we've asked writers to choose a zip code and then see where your imagination takes you. So how did you come up with this idea?
Thanks, Bill. After season 1, and I wrote the play, Annexing the Palisades, I was speaking with Arlene Vidor, who is big in the Antaeus community and in Glendale. And she said, someone needs to write about Glendale. And I thought, well, of course, that's where the theater's based. And I, over a period of 6 months, I was like, pitch me ideas, tell me about Glendale what I don't know. And obviously what I don't know is quite a bit. And there were so many wonderful stories, and there's so many, rough and difficult stories, but I wanted to find something that was about the rise of Glendale and about what made Glendale great. But when I write about history, I like to focus on the people rather than the events. And in this case, it was once I learned about Leslie Brand and about what happened after his passing in his will, I just thought about how, and it says in the play, how, empires are built on the backs of the forgotten. And I wanted to explore the story of some people who were forgotten.
Fantastic. It's an awesome tale, and we're going to dive into it and some of the complexities around that. But I first want to say hi to our other guest, Lisa Dring, who has directed the play. Thank you for being with us. How was this to direct an audio play? This is done totally without the actors meeting each other or seeing each other, or you being in the same room. How was that process interesting?
It was certainly interesting. It was really fun. And, we've been working a lot on Zoom as a theater community over the past 2 years. And so this felt like that plus a production. I was really moved by how Jeff was such a huge part of the process, not only in writing it, like Alex, from the beginning, you were talking about the sound design. And then also, usually when you're ready to put it out in the world, you get together with a bunch of designers and figure it out. And really, it was just Jeff.
Jeff, you're talking about Jeff Gardner, our audio producer, sound designer, Foley artist. For people who don't know, Foley is the making of all the sound effects, raindrops and horse hooves and all kinds of sounds that he makes brilliantly.
Yeah. And that was fascinating too. He was like, okay, so for them to chew, we have to get them jerky. And that whole world was so fascinating. And then also the actors were amazing. It's a very facile cast. And so we got to play a lot, given a truncated rehearsal time, but they were so, they came in with such life that it was just a pleasure the whole way.
Oh, excellent. We'll hear a little bit more later about some of the specifics of working on the production. But I want to say hi to Caley Cannon, who is with us from the Glendale Library and Arts Center. Hi. Thank you for being here. Is that a picture behind you of
it
is.
You know? Yes. That's Brand Library and Arts Center, formerly known as Miradero.
Right. So you are, pretty intimately associated with this spot. You actually work in this attractive building.
I work there. I'm there almost every day. Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about what goes on there? It's part of the library system in Glendale.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we're part of the city's Library Arts and Culture Department. The library is very unique. It's a specialized art and music library. We're a public library, so we are open to everyone. Anyone that lives in the city or in the state of California can get a library card. We have a wide variety of collections, programming, galleries, concerts, lots of things that are going on free and open to the community. So if you haven't been up to visit us at Brand Library and Arts Center, please do come. It would be a pleasure to have you.
It's gorgeous, and I'm sure on a day like today, which was so lovely out, I'm sure it is an exquisite place. I've been up there, and I think it's a really awesome spot. Now, Alex, did you take a trip up there to? I shouldn't put you on the spot that way. Did ask if you went there to check it out?
I absolutely did. Well, a couple of things. Yes. So Arlene, who I mentioned before, once I wrote the first draft of the script, I said, let's go I took her to lunch. I'm like, can you show me around? So we walked through, saw all of the main floor. We didn't get to go up into the tower, but pointed out exactly where everything was, walk on the front porch where you can see the valley spread out before you. It's really beautiful. But I would also like to add that, coincidentally, our Playwrights lab briefly, and we'll probably touch on this later, worked out of the library for about 1.5 years. So I've been there every week in the back conference room, working on my plays and other people's plays. And, so I knew the space well.
It's a funny thing. Yes, Antaeus, the theater company, we were located in North Hollywood for a long time. And several years ago, we built out a space in Glendale at Broadway and Brand. And during that time, while we were building out this space, our Playwrights lab, which generally meets, in the library of our own building, was meeting in this building is pictured here, which is pretty exciting. It's an inspiring place. Alex, let's hear a little bit about the history of this, of all these brands. Can you tell us a little bit more about Leslie Brand and how he came to be such a prominent figure in Glendale?
Sure. He came here he was from the Midwest. He spent some time in Galveston and came in here to develop land. That's really, he saw the potential of Glendale, which at the time was a farming community of, I believe, maybe 400 people. And he did what all forward-thinking land developers do. He brought the train in, he brought in power, he brought in, and did a lot of charitable work in this sense, where he was like, he spent a lot of his time and effort all at the same time buying a lot of land. And then when Glendale became an active, vibrant city, he used to take out ads in the LA Times saying, have you visited Glendale yet? Like full page ads. And so he did all this development work and then started parceling off and selling parts of his land to become subdivisions, and that's how he made his fortune. He certainly cut some corners here and there. He certainly did some things that upset other, Glendale residents, like, moving the train line one block over so it benefited his businesses. And yes, he did, like in the play, literally name the street after himself. That wasn't in an honor given to him by someone else. That was, he's like, it's my street. It's like, who names buildings and streets after themselves? I'm not going to name any other names, but
yes, we can all think for ourselves. How much of this play that you have written is actually true? Because you're maybe compressing events or characters. Are all the characters in here are real life people?
All except for the attorney. So yes, Brand, when he passed, did leave a will that I quoted from mostly directly. He did have 2 wives, and that is true. He married both of them in Mexico. I guess, people who have studied him believe that he probably thought that bigamy was a less of a crime as having a bastard child. Like, he didn't want to do that to the kid, I guess, or I don't know. But so he was married twice. Unlike the story, though, the wives probably knew each other. Obviously, they weren't close, but I believe they were aware of each other. So the lawyer—
Were they aware that they were married? I mean, did they know?
I'm not sure if the Birdie, the second wife, was aware of the first marriage. Yes, and she was put up in a house that was sold. She worked for Brand for a while. I don't know in what capacity. And he got her a sweetheart deal, and she bought a house up on Laurel Canyon and Rinaldi, way up in the north part of the valley. And that's where, when she had her first kid, Brand sent a telegram of congratulations. And so these events are all real. What's not real is the attorney himself. While Brand had an attorney, I wanted to create a character that could help us with the exposition, but also provide some comic relief in there. And the biggest jump from fact is that, and I learned this in the process, is that readings of wills are just a theatrical conceit that we believe is real because we see them in movies and theater and books all the time. Nobody does this. Nobody has ever done this. There's no reason to do this. You get a will and someone will send you a copy. So this is a purely dramatic thing to have people in the room be like, let's read this together.
Well, you handle it very well, and at least you handle it very well, the mix of comedy and drama in this piece, because I'm hearing it again, some of it is very funny, but obviously a very serious topic, and serious for the women, in the situation. How did you handle that kind of dichotomy of style?
Well, I got lucky with the casting, for sure. But I also think the play lends itself, the writing is really easy to move between. I mean, that's one thing I love about the writing, is that it does want to go through all these spaces. But I think in moments of grief, people are both, very sincere and serious, and then they also behave very strangely, like fools. So I think that situation, one is at the edge of their rational mind in some ways. And that is sometimes a very funny state. I also think John, the lawyer, really helps out with that. He's one that, like, the two women will be in a state and he'll come in from an opposite angle and just shine a light on it. And they're both, his angle is often very strange too, but I think the addition of him, I think on Alex's part was very smart.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to those actors again too, and that's Alexandra Hellquist, Peter James Smith, and Kitty Swink, who did.
Bill, if I can jump in one thing also that can't be glossed over with what Lisa did is that by nature of the contracts, the rehearsal process was very short, and I believe a total of 2 rehearsals at 2 hours each. So I think in our first rehearsal, she had a total after intros and the read through of the script, I believe 12 minutes with the cast to get notes across. She was like, boom, here we go. This is it, and we're out of here. So like, and I think we had 15 minutes in the second rehearsal, but like that's a ridiculously short amount of time to get that nuance and performance out of those actors.
We're very, very happy to have had her on the project and looking forward to working with Lisa more. Caley, I want to ask you about the preservation of the building and how, what parts of it remain and what parts of it are not with us any longer.
Sure. So the home was actually built in 1904, and it included a large amount of property, and the grounds had a greenhouse. There were stables and swimming pools and tennis courts. There was a large garden area. So it was really an expansive and beautiful, estate. The Brand family did a lot of entertaining, and so you can imagine how lovely that would have been as a place to welcome people to come and visit. The media covered in the 1920s, the Roaring 20s, these fly-in parties where his guests would arrive to his private airfield, and it was really a spectacular occasion. And most of that, of course, doesn't exist anymore. That's been lost to us over the years. But Mary Louise did continue to live in that house until she passed away in 1945. And that's when the city started the process of converting it into a library. It didn't open until 1956. So there was, it took a while to convert the property. And then there was an addition that was added in 1969 that includes a concert room, a recital hall, and our gallery space as well. So there have been a lot of changes over the years and in improvements. In 2014, there was a historic renovation project that had been in the works for a long time, and it was finally came to fruition through 2014 through 2012 through 2014. We reopened, and so a lot of the interior space it has been restored to what it looked like when the Brand family lived there. So that
and the public can see those areas.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So it's a kind of late Victorian style interior, which is a nice contrast with the exterior, which has this kind of Indian, Moorish style that was based on the India Pavilion at the Chicago World's Fair. So. So it's a very unique building, and as I said, it has been restored to closer to what it looked like when the family lived there.
It's pretty awesome, Alex. Is that true that the bedroom was not in Glendale but in Los Angeles?
That is true. I fact checked that one. Yeah, he built that so because the law at the time was where you lay your head is where you pay your residence tax. So the rest of the house was in Glendale. And he just over the property line there.
It's a clever strategy. Yeah. I also have to ask you, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious as what became of the two Mrs. Brands? Caley, you mentioned that the one lived there the rest of her life. That's correct? Or
she did.
Alex?
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And she shut off from socially. I mean, and you can back that up, I believe, right? She never threw any other parties. It just became she lived her life, a quiet life, the way she wanted to live. Birdie moved, sold the house. She worked the rest of her life. She wound up moving to Brand Boulevard. I don't know if it's or not, but she lived in a 2-bedroom apartment on Brand Boulevard until she passed. She had her kids had grandkids, and I believe the LA Times did a big dive about 10 years ago and found the granddaughter, who is still alive. I believe she lives in either Arizona or Northern California. But so the family lived on, but they did not benefit from his legacy financially.
And how much of the of his estate, I guess, was in fact left to Glendale, the city of Glendale?
I believe a lot, and he did throughout his time. So he was very generous, and at the same time would rip off other business people. But he wanted to make sure that Glendale was a city that had all the riches and all the well. He helped build I may be wrong on this one, but like built a hotel that he helped convert to a hospital. So he did have pianos, and that's the truth, 6 of them, and did spread them around town. So he was very influential in shaping the culture of the city.
That brings me to a question I wanted to ask Lisa, because it's a thing that I'm very interested in, which is how do we, when we're creating art or stories about historical figures who have good and bad sides, how do we deal with that? How do we look at a person? I mean, there's lots of artists we can think of who some of them have done very civically minded things and have been pretty horrific in their personal lives. How do we kind of square that?
And I think theater's one of the best places to do that, because it's like a dialectic form. You can bring in different energies. People can be wonderful and terrible. And like anyone, people I know really intimately, they're every adjective, right? They're beautiful and they're ugly and they're terrible and they're brilliant and they're so dumb. So what I loved, and I think Alex had been thinking about this from the start, is like, well, what did he love the most? It's not like he was heartless. It's not like and it was interesting what you were talking about, like compartmentalizing his house, also his love life, right? He was able to be strong in that way.
Yeah, well said, yeah.
Birdie says it. She says that his first love was Glendale. In fact, I feel like they both felt, or they might have both felt like mistresses to Glendale. And so he did have a loyalty, but it wasn't to the people that we would normally think he would be loyal to. So thinking about, instead of like, oh, yes, he did something that was really harsh for those people, he did many amazing things for this community that we are benefiting from right now. And also, what did draw him? What was the magnet of love that moved him towards something? And I think we have to look at that. I mean, looking at complicated, powerful men is really intriguing. And I think it's useful to sort of pick apart what happens to a psyche when you become a symbol of a place. Then that place becomes a part of you. So the answer is, I'm not sure, but I think we're trying.
It's a great question. I find it a fascinating question, and it comes up more and more as we realize that some of our heroes are not 100% heroic in every, of course they're not, they're humans. And I think you're right that the theater is a place where we can delve into those things. And I'm always interested in stories about people who have a lot of gray. I'm not super interested in stories that are just, good guy, bad guy. So Alex, congratulations on writing that. Did you grapple with that in the writing of this?
Yeah, I wanted to, again, with all characters, you want to have sympathy with them, and with the first Mrs. Brand, you also wanted to give her a sense of entitlement that somehow, and her status shifts away from her. So you want to give both sides. So yeah, I wanted to portray him as someone who wronged these women, but also is not an inherently evil person or a pathological person. He may very well have been pathological, but like, I don't want to showcase that. I want to give room for the whole entirety of his existence, the good and the bad.
And it's interesting you did that without including him as a character in the play.
Yeah, he's very much a character in the play. That's not in it. Yes.
Caley, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about on that positive side. What other parts of Glendale can we sort of thank him for? What is his legacy in Glendale?
Well, I think, we've already talked about Brand Boulevard, and there are a lot of other streets and locations in Glendale that are named after him or his extended family members as well. Stocker and Dryden, I think, are two names that we hear, and those were both, extended family members of Leslie Brand. But I think also, like Leslie was, or Lisa was saying about the being civic minded, and how he was a very welcoming person. I've read accounts about the events that he had, Boy Scouts coming and camping on his property, the YMCA having events on his property. So he was very involved in the community and inviting people to come to his property and enjoy it. And I think that legacy continues, I think, in Brand Park and in the library as well, as being a place that's open for everyone to come. And it's really a hub for the community. And I think Mr. Brand would be proud of that. I think he would appreciate the legacy that is continuing.
I want to give a shout out too to Alex as a wonderful writer who tackled an equally compelling and complicated story in our season 1 production of that talks about the Pacific Palisades. And do you want to just give a little hint about what that's about for people who may not have heard that?
Sure.
Maybe I'll go check it out.
Yeah, Annexing the Palisades is also based on a true story. It's about a husband and wife who build a large estate called the Murphy Ranch in the Palisades, which exists there before World War II. And they were doing it because they were actually Nazi sympathizers, and they were looking to build a bunker to wait out the war until Hitler won. So that's the history behind that piece. And it's still there. It's
still exists as well.
Yeah, you can hike and go there and check it out. I haven't done it yet, but I'm dying to.
It's pretty amazing. You've done a great job in that story of making, I wouldn't say exactly sympathetic people, but of giving a well-rounded look at this very interesting historical event. So you are 2 for 2 here at Antaeus in writing great historical pieces. Have you always wanted to meld history and drama together? Is that what inspires you as a writer?
I was doing the tracks at the same time, and they didn't cross for a long time. I went to Skidmore College in upstate New York, and I majored in American Studies and history, and I minored in theater. I was 2 classes shy of a double major. And so I got out of college. And I'm like, well, duh, there's a lot to do there. So I haven't explored this fully until this project. I've written a couple of historical things, but nothing that involved as much truth telling with it. So it's really opened, this opportunity has been great for me. And I thank you and the theater for enabling me to tell stories like this, because I'm not going to stop now. I love it.
And people may not know, Lisa, you're also a talented writer and actor as well. How did you were you always in show business? How did this come to be?
I started as an actor, and then I was also I worked in development and writing grants. I was just a theater person. I stage managed for a long time. And then I wrote a solo show, and that really started both my writing and directing from doing that. And from there, I got really lucky. I got a commission from that, and I got into a playwrights group. And there I wrote my first dialogical pieces. And then I was also asked to start developing work as a director. And then the last 7 years have been really exploring those realms more.
Is there one you prefer, or is it, you probably like them all? I'm pretty fond of everything I do.
They all speak to each other, but I am, they all, it feels like different dialects of the same language, and they really teach each other. And I love the respite from one. Like, memorizing language is so useful for me as a director and a writer, because it's like this devotional quality in understanding language. And then also when you direct, you really understand how you should be. I think you should understand how you should be in the room as an actor. And then as a writer, they all speak together. And I just love, and I also love collaborating with different kinds of people too. Like, I don't necessarily want to direct and write my own stuff, because that relationship is so special to me.
Interesting. Yeah. When I was coming up in school, it seemed like they were, it was kind of everyone stay in their own lane. The actors do the acting and the writers do the writing, and it seems like things have really changed since I was in school, which is a long time, but things have really changed to a kind of a multi-hyphenate thing, and people are finding great success in bouncing back between these different things, and each one informing the other. I think it's terrific. So we are lucky to have you here directing this piece. Yeah.
If I can add, I first met Lisa in early in the pandemic in a playwright dramaturg exchange, and I watched her do some dramaturgy on other people's scripts, and she was fantastic. So I reached out separately and said, "Would you? Can I hire you for one of mine?" And she did help me out with the play. And then I was able to connect you guys and bring her in here. And I remember what's crazy about all this whole process is after this radio play was released, we had a little cast get together in my backyard. And I was like, "This is the first time we've actually met in person. It's the only time we've met in person." And I've known you for now a year and a half, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, this has been a strange couple of years. As Jade said in the beginning, Antaeus was looking for a way to tell stories during the pandemic when our theater was closed. And we thought, as a classical theater, it can often be difficult to comment on Los Angeles and where we live now. So having this great playwrights lab available to us and these wonderful writers, it seemed like a great idea to be able to talk about all of Los Angeles and all the different neighborhoods through these zip code plays and recording them. And again, I shout out to Jeff Gardner once again, who does all the sound, and Ella Mandel, who does our beautiful music, and Ramon Diocampo, who is our charming host, who really pulls the whole thing together. And so we are extremely proud. And as Jade said, we were nominated for an Ambie Award. This is it's like the Grammy Awards of podcasting, and we are nominated for Best Fiction Podcast, which was quite a thrill. And we're, maybe we're dark horse, but we're very excited to find out if we win coming up here. Even if we don't, we're very proud to be included in the company that we're included in. What is it? What do they say? It's nice just to be nominated. It's nice just to be nominated. Caley, tell us a little bit more about what's going on specifically at the library in the next bit of time.
I would love to, yes. So we produce 4 to 6 art exhibitions every year in our gallery space. And I would like to invite everyone that's joined us this evening to come to our next event that's on Saturday, March 19th at 2 p.m. There's a closing event for the current show. The curators will be with us, and they will be providing a free guided tour and reception afterwards. We also have some concerts that are coming up as well. They're live in-person concerts. We're very excited. We have a family-friendly program. It's a taiko drumming concert, also on March 19th at 10:30 in the morning. And then we have a chamber music concert series that's resuming on April 2nd. And that's a clarinet and guitar duo. So we're planning additional concerts for the rest of the year as well, as long as we're able to with the health and safety guidelines. We're also planning some dance performances as well. So there is a lot going on at Brand. There's a lot to see and do and experiences. So I hope everyone will come and see us it's just nice to be back together again in person, I think, after all this time. So
yes, we are certainly feeling that at Antaeus as well. We had our first in-person events 2 weeks ago. It went very well. A number of staged readings of some classic plays, and then coming up in the beginning of April, we will have something called Lab Results, which is a series of readings of full-length plays that have been developed in the Playwrights Lab. And we have 5 of those coming up over the course of the first weekend in April. Those will be live in person, great actors reading new scripts that have been developed for us. And cats love it. Cats love them too. That's called Lab Results, and you can find all that. I'm sure they will put that in the chat. There's a question here that got typed in, and I think we kind of answered, but let's just make sure. This is, well, yes, it says, I love your Pacific Palisades piece as well, especially having hiked to the bunker. Oh, someone went out there. Awesome. I'm curious if anyone ever raised the issue that his second wife wasn't a legitimate marriage since he was already married, and is his second wife must have known that he was already married. Kind of answered that. Anything else to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, the second wife did know he was married, certainly. The legitimacy is always in question. Both of his marriages were in Mexico. So you could, look up issues about which is more legitimate or not, sort of thing. But the fact of the matter is that she did not benefit. So it was basically an illegitimate marriage. She got very little out of the actual marriage paperwork.
Fascinating. Jade, do you have any other questions in the chat, or are there any other questions that have come in?
Actually, I do not see any other questions in. So if you have anything pressing, you could send it in the next minute. Otherwise, I think we're good to say goodnight and share all the links at the end.
Yeah, I think that Courtney put the link to the lab results at Antaeus. We hope you will come to see that. We want to give huge thanks to Caley for coming out and talking to us about this. And I love that you put out the picture, because that's very helpful for people who haven't seen it. Now they'll be intrigued to go. Are there grounds to walk around as well? Is there hiking or outdoor activity as well there?
Yes, there is. There's several hiking trails, and in addition to the park as well. So there's lots to do.
Do I have a picnic there?
Oh yes, picnic, grilling, playground if you have kids. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming. I encourage everybody, if you have not been up there, it's really beautiful. And now you will have some historical context as you walk around. Lisa, thank you so much for participating with us and for your wonderful work directing this piece. Again, hearing it, I'm so proud. Thank you. Do you have any parting words for us here on what's coming up for you?
Oh,
other places?
Happy to. And also I wanted to say Alexandra Hellquist, our amazing Birdie, is in a really good show called On the Other Hand, We're Happy at the Matrix. So if y'all are interested in seeing a show, I saw this at Edinburgh and the piece is amazing. And this production is getting really good reviews. I've got 2 plays I'm writing that's coming up, workshops. Happy Fall, a queer stunt spectacular with Rogue Artist Ensemble is having a workshop the end of March. And then I'm developing a play called Sumo with La Jolla Playhouse and Mayi Theater Company that'll have a workshop here in LA in June.
Fantastic. Well, that's a full plate. Awesome. And I do have tickets to see Alexandra Hellquist show coming up.
Me too, I can't wait.
And Alex Goldberg, what is going on with you? Thank you so much for your beautiful play.
Oh, thank you. It really is an honor, and it's been a joy to be involved twice now. I love it. I literally wrote end of play on a play today, one that I've been developing, thanks, in lab actually, for a couple of years ago, that I got to the end and I'm like, this ending is terrible. And so I put it aside for the pandemic and just got back into it a month ago and like, there it is, I found it. So I have that. I'm co-writing a play with another playwright in lab, Marlo Wyatt, and we've just finished up a draft of that where very interesting political comedy. And I've also optioned, my company has optioned a memoir that I've been writing now for about a year, about a young man who is overcoming physical, mental, and sexual abuse, and then fights to change legislation. And so I've been working on that. So those are the 3 projects that I've been toggling between.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. And I'll say that we will we started these zip code plays again as a thing to do while we were shut down, but we have loved them so much that it is absolutely our intention to begin work on a season 4. So people should look for that in the future. I think these are just too good to not continue on with. Again, lab results coming up at Antaeus. That's new work, but don't forget we are a classical theater company, and so our first main stage show back will be opening in May. Is that right? And it is Shakespeare's Hamlet. That is, that's classical theater, kids. That's classical theater. It's going to be fantastic, directed by Elizabeth Swain, who is a Shakespeare master, and we are very lucky to have her on board. Begin rehearsals a couple weeks, and that'll be our live return to the theater. So please come and check that out. Antaeus is doing I think, exciting thing of looking at classical theater, how that relates to and talks to new classical work and new plays that speak to us in this community. So Jade, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you guys all so much for coming. It means a great deal to us that you were here.
Yes, thank you. That's all I have for tonight. So we're just going to turn off our cameras, and Courtney will share a screen with some links on it, and you can check out the brand library link as well, see what their events are coming up. And thank you guys so much for joining us tonight on this lovely Saturday. I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye, everyone.